Anything else on this? Yeah.
As we go deeper and deeper into the psychedelic experience, it seems that, well, I personally become radically aware of the contrast. Like, when intoxicated, you go into the ecstasy and you release your ego and allow yourself to fully open. But then, on coming down, we like slam back into this Western civilization, ego and the whole reality of it. And I'm wondering how you, for so many years, going deeper and deeper in, how you managed to integrate yourself.
Well, I think the answer is not very well. I'm very fortunate to have the career you see me hard work at here, because what else could I possibly do? Well, I remember one time I was in the psych library at the University of California looking up something about drugs, and I pulled a book off the shelf, just at random, and opened it up, and it was describing process schizophrenia. And it said, the victim of this particular syndrome lives in a twilight world of self-generated fantasy and occupies a marginal position in society, usually holding down odd jobs and moving from... So this is it. Now I understand. So... my father used to tell me, he said, you'd rather change the world than change yourself. And I guess that's what happened. I've managed to make this marginality something that I can actually make a living out of. I think it's hard. If you take psychedelics and are completely without community, you sort of think you're nuts. One of the things that's so important about a get-together like this and like last night is that the psychedelic community sees itself. I mean, they've ripped off our fashions, our hair length, our speech styles, everything else. You can't really tell freaks from everybody else. But when the community self-selects to come here, someone like myself or Andy Wilde or Tim Leary or whatever, you should look around and see who's here, because these are the people that can be the basis of a community. Also, probably whatever you're looking for, someone in this room has. And it's just sort of a kind of social scavenger hunt to figure that out, you know. But it's really important to build community. If, you know, there's this cliche, one person with a mad idea is deluded. Two people with a mad idea is a folie à deux. Three people with a mad idea is a cult. And four people with a mad idea is a religion. And five people with a mad idea, that's reality. So it's all about building a common language so that we can talk about it and support each other as we come and go from it. Otherwise, it will always remain private, marginalized, and socially inconsequential, I think.
I mean, how fortunate it is that, like, the more primitive cultures, the more indigenous cultures, where they have a shaman there, not only voyage through the hyperspace, but then upon going back to everyday life, they're far more integrated with nature and living that integration of non-barriers.
Well, and everyday life for them is being embedded in a climaxed tropical forest or something like that. Yes. No, it's very hard to make sense of, like, taking psychedelics in Manhattan or something and then coming down to fit yourself into that world. The cognitive dissonance that we feel between the psychedelic state and the lives we have to lead is a measure of how far we've fallen from any kind of lifestyle that supports self-exploration of the body and the mind. I mean, we have literally become cogs in a machine. Uh, when I go to LA and fly over the suburbs and look down, it looks to me like a magnification of an electronic chip. You know, it is in fact simply a fractal resonance of the electronic chips that are in the toasters, vacuum cleaners, and televisions in those houses. And as you look down, you realize as long as the Reader's Digest stays subscribed to, as long as the people who live in those houses climb in their Japanese cars and go to their jobs every day, the system works. But the amount of humanness in that system, the amount of passion, the amount of dreaming and romantic hope is zero, you know. I mean, people's idea of a golden dream is a better BMW. And this creates, you know, toxic, low awareness lives. And then people wonder why they're depressed and have ulcers and their children don't respect them and so forth and so on. Well, we have allowed institutions to rule our lives. And institutions are not necessarily servants of the human agenda. I mean, I think I said to somebody during the break last night, I quoted Lenin, who said, when it comes time to hang the capitalists, they will sell us new rope. I feel like, you know, we're just willing to deal the planet until there's no planet left to stand on. There seems to be no awareness of limits or the impact that we're having on the planet. We've invented a sin that didn't even exist until the 20th century, which is the sin of robbing your own children of their future. I mean, no society in history has ever been so perverse that it would actually loot its children's future. I mean, that's what society is for, is to secure the children's future. But in the way we destroy land and pile up debt, we're handing this all on to the unborn. And it's an incredibly infantile and self-indulgent and egocentric approach to the phenomenon of life. I'm sure you've all seen these bumper stickers that say, "Live simply, that others may simply live." And you know, this is an idea worth holding. Somehow we have to reverse our, what I call consumer object fetishism. That we are fetishistically obsessed with stuff. And this is wrecking the planet. When we were nomads in Africa, there was no material culture at all. People felt inner wealth was your existential validity, who you were, the power of your songs, the power of your speech, your hunting prowess, your sexual prowess, your magical prowess. It was who you were, not what you had. Nobody had anything because everybody was on the move. They never slept in the same place twice. The invention of agriculture was a strategy for the production of food that was monstrously successful. I mean, you can imagine when these river valleys like the Tigris, Euphrates, and the Nile, when they had never been farmed, when they had millions of years of topsoil accumulated there, the response to early agricultural efforts was a tremendous surplus. Well, you can't carry it with you. So consequently, you stay with it. And then you build a tower to put it in. The oldest and most complex structure known to exist was the grain tower at Jericho. And it was for holding grain, and it was also constructed so that you could climb to the top and drop large, heavy objects on people outside, people who were obviously trying to get at the grain. The invention of agriculture created haves and have-nots. It created economy, because suddenly you had more food than you could eat at any one time, so the concept of trade arises. It creates urbanization. It creates specialized work patterns. Oh, and you can just see how we are the inheritors of all of these new institutions, the institutions that arose in the Neolithic, urbanism, agriculture, job specialization, gender specialization, so forth and so on. This set us on the downhill path to the present circumstance in the absence of psychedelics.